Welcome to the Utilization of Money Podcast with Todd Levine from Levine Financial Group. In this podcast, we teach our clients how to own their personal economy. Join us on this journey where we build upon your greatest asset as Todd draws from his years of expertise, solutions, strategies, and expert guest stories to help you understand how money works.
Hello and welcome to Utilization of Money with Todd Levine from Levine Financial Group. Hello, Todd. How are you?
Hi, Eric. How are you?
Oh man, I'm doing great. I'm adjusting. I joke around because I've been in self-quarantine and social isolation or social distancing for the last 7.5 years. That's how long I've been working from my home office. So this is kind of normal for me. But now my wife is working from home as well, and it's great. We get to eat lunch together. But the other thing is that I keep trying to keep her out of my office. She wants to organize stuff, dude. And she wants to clean. And I'm like, I like organized chaos. Would you just leave my stuff alone, please?
Yep. We learn a lot during these times. That's for sure.
That's right. And 25 years of marriage, this is a great test. No, we're doing fine. How's everybody there at your office and your family and all?
Everybody's doing well. Thank you. Yeah, we're chugging along and trying to keep as positive as possible, and and focusing on hopefully better times ahead.
Todd, I'm just really excited about this podcast specifically. I know that this is going to be more of a personal thing, and you and I are going to be able to talk a lot about what's going on currently, and I know you wanted to share some really good ideas with the listening audience. So what are we truly talking about today?
Well, over these last couple of weeks, it's been a challenging time, I think, for everybody. So everybody, who's listening to our podcasts are more focused and geared towards finances. Like everybody else, I started to fall into a funk, over these last couple of weeks. And, it becomes a little bit of a scary place. You're taken out of your norm. You're told to stay in your house. You're trying to figure out how to run your business, how to care for your clients, and how to continue to add value. And it just becomes a really, really challenging time. And, and I felt myself falling into what we call the gap. We talked about this a little bit before. And when I, speaking to one of my business coaches, I said, I felt like I'm sort of in a funk and sort of falling into this gap. And what the gap is really is a place where we don't want to really be. So we're myself and everybody listening to this podcast came out of December, January, and they had these big goals for the year. Mm-hmm. All right, excited about accomplishing personal goals and professional goals, and we have our business plans put together, and we're excited, and we're going, and we're operating, and then all of a sudden, COVID-19 happens.
Yeah.
Right, and people start losing their jobs, and we're told we can't open our businesses. And people can't go to the gym, and they can't go get haircuts, and they can't do their normal routines. So all of a sudden they find themselves in this area where they're like, wow, we're already in April, approaching May, and I'm way behind on all my personal and business goals. And how am I going to possibly get there? Mm-hmm. And that's what we call the gap. So when we're living here in this area, all we're thinking about is what we haven't accomplished. We're not really thinking about what we have and what we have accomplished.
True, yeah.
And so this is a really interesting thing that we work on all the time, is that we do our very best to stay out of the gap. And this is why we operate the way we do, and we operate on a day-to-day basis and on a quarterly basis. And we really make a point to look at every single day and every single quarter and look back and say, hey, what have we accomplished? And pat ourselves on the back, and then we move on to the next day and the next month and the next quarter. Mm-hmm. But when we start looking, what's going on right now is that a lot of people I'm talking to they're starting to kind of fall into these ruts, and they're saying, I don't know how I'm going to recover this year. I don't know how I'm going to meet these goals, and I don't know how I'm going to get back on track. And as long as you think like that, you're going to remain in the negative and you're going to remain in this gap, and it's going to be very, very challenging, right? Challenging yourself. So instead of just reevaluating where you are today and how you can make really, really good progress today, that is really what's going to keep us moving forward and giving us the ability to achieve whatever it is we're going to achieve this year, but really feel good about it in the same sense. So I was really going through this, and I really felt like I was in a rut, and I was so happy that I was able to kind of dial back and use a lot of the training that I've had over the last 7 to 10 years in personal development, and really figure out why I was feeling the way I was feeling and how I was going to rebalance myself and take myself out of that gap.
Yeah, isn't it amazing how our normal, quote unquote, normal daily routines shield us from the gap in so many different ways, because we have so many opportunities to succeed. We have so many opportunities to connect with other people and find joy in what they're doing that's positive, the accomplishments that they're doing. And it's hard to not be able to feed off of that, right? Our own victories that we're not seeing, on a daily basis because our life is completely changed in many, many ways. And then even also the being able to celebrate with other people's victories because we're not seeing them on a daily basis or even on a weekly basis anymore. And so it's really hard to stay connected. So let me ask you this. When you started feeling like this and you started to draw on your personal development training that you've had over the years, what was the first thing that really helped you to even recognize, hey, this isn't the way I normally feel. What's going on? What do I need to do to change this?
Yeah, of course. So obviously we all know how we feel, right? And the first thing really is knowing that, something's not right, and we're not feeling inspired, and we're not feeling the way we usually do. So for me, the first thing is always really just to talk to the people in my inner circle that I trust the most, and really do a reflection on the things that I have in life that I'm very grateful for, looking back and talking about all the things that we've accomplished over the last 3 months or the last 6 months that really brought us to this place. And one of the people I do that is one of my business coaches, Paul. Paul Malilla from Power Mastery. He's amazing. And I've been working with Paul for like 7 years, and we started having this conversation, and what we really did was we sort of did a backtrack, and we did exactly that. We just started talking about all the good things that are going on and all the great things that we've accomplished over the last 3 and 6 months to change our mindset, to change the mindset. So it was really the number one thing is how do we change our mindset to not thinking about what we haven't accomplished or how far we might be away from accomplishing these goals, to let's talk about today some of the things that we have to be thankful for in our lives, or some of the things that we've accomplished over the last 3 to 6 months. That was a first starting point to figuring out, to getting myself, I'd say, centered, to recentering myself to the point where I can, now start to focus on making these small adjustments and focusing on the day-to-day activities and the day-to-day wins. The day-to-day wins are huge, like you just mentioned before. I mean, you could have wins in anything. You go to the gym, you have a great workout, that's a win. You feel good. You ate clean, or you had a great family time, and that's a win. But we seem to forget those things when we're in this environment and we start to put ourselves in this area. So one of the things was really just centering myself and starting to realize, that I need to focus on those daily wins.
Yeah, and the daily wins have been adjusting, right? Because we can't go to the gym. We can still eat healthy. We can still do those things. The funny thing is that the daily win that can probably increase is the family time, right? We're probably getting a little bit more family time than we normally do. I know that I've spent more time with my wife and daughter than I have in the past because, like I said, my wife working from home. My daughter does not live with us, but she lives very close, and she comes over to the house and she spends more time with us because she's not going out and doing things with her friends. We have a more of a safe environment. We contact with less people, so on and so forth. So that's a win. But I'll tell you, Todd, talking about, kind of feeling defeated or whatever, I'm 5 pounds into putting on the COVID-19, as I say. that extra 19 pounds that I know that I'm going to end up getting if I don't eat healthier. We're eating healthy, but doggone it, I'm eating more than I normally do because, I'm here all the time. Oh, I'll get a snack. Oh, I'll do whatever. So it's funny that you bring up those things. How do you see yourself transforming some of those daily wins from what you used to be able to do to what you can only do now?
Well, you have to identify certain things and that you have control over, that you want to succeed in over, right now and over a shorter period of time. And that's the thing. Like, so a lot of people have a lot of, they might be sitting home right now and be like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And there's 10 or 15 things and they might not do anything. So I think it's really going narrow and deep is really kind of taking a step back and saying, okay, what are the 5 areas? What are the 5 big jumps I want to have over this next quarter? Right? And so this is something that we actually do every single quarter. And the reason why is because we have a lifetime to accomplish all of our goals. They can't all be accomplished in 3 months, 6 months, or a year. It's like driving to California, right? You're 10 miles at a time. What we try to focus on really first is to really simplify it in our minds is saying, okay, well, while we're sitting home, what are some things that I want to be able to accomplish that will make me feel good about where I'm going to be in 3 months? Not a year, in 3 months. And that is really the first step. So whether it's a business goal or a personal goal, anything. I'll give you an example. I have on my, top 5, my 5 biggest jumps, which say this is, if these were to happen in 3 months, I would feel really good about where I was. So in my 5 jumps, I have 2 business goals. I have 1 health-related goal, 1 mind development-related goal, which is really geared around meditation. And I have 1 goal that's built around my family. And these are the things that I'm like, well, if I do this and I get here to this place in 3 months, I'm going to be really excited about the place I am.
Okay, hang on. Let's back up for a minute. I want to clarify. Did you make these goals before the whole COVID thing and the kind of the new norm that we're in now? Or did you reevaluate and remake these goals when this all happened so that you had new, clearer goals?
Good question. So I think I probably jumped ahead a little bit. So when I started the year, I had my annual goals. The first quarter really wasn't affected, right? So we had our quarterly jumps, which were geared towards accomplishing our annual goals. Yes. So for me, I found myself saying things like this. While now business has changed over the last month and a half, so I'm not really sure how I'm gonna be able to do this. I haven't been able to see my personal trainer in a month and a half, so I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to achieve this. So my mind started to go. I wasn't necessarily behind on my objectives. My mind was going into the gap, and I was starting to question how I was going to be able to achieve those annual goals.
Yeah.
So when we reset these, it just so happens it's right now. And so we were resetting our top 5 jumps for the second quarter, which just so happens puts us right flat in the middle of this COVID-19 disaster. And so what I did was my quarterly jumps were still in line with my annual goals because we have not yet fallen behind. In my mind, I'm falling behind.
Got it.
So my quarterly jumps were really geared towards keeping me here in the present and still helping me work towards these goals that are going to keep me on track for my annual goals. But it was really geared towards the reason why this conversation is so important is because it's geared towards keeping me here in the present and continuing to focus on these daily wins. And at the end of the quarter, these 5 big jumps will still keep me on track for where I need to be annually. And I will keep moving in that direction. So if I get to the end of when we get to the end of the year, it's not going to really matter to me if we're a little bit off or a little bit ahead, because the goal is to just feel good about these jumps every single quarter and making sure we're online. So if I'm constantly moving along, like had a good day, had a good week, excited about this, accomplished this, those wins, we're going to get to the end of the year and we're going to feel really good about the way we are, but we just can't go there yet. We have to go here. So for my top 5 quarterly jumps, were in line with my annual goals, but they were I reiterated them more so because I started to fall into that, well, are we going to really be able to do this because all of this is happening around us?
Absolutely.
The real reason why I wanted to have this podcast discussion was really to give our listeners and the people out there some really good ideas on how they could stay out of the gap and how they can create a little game plan for themselves, a little quarterly game plan for themselves geared around some personal items and or business items that they want to focus on that will give them excitement and will give them those daily wins. So some of them, like I explained prior, that a couple of my 5 wins were geared around family, personal development, health, and business. So just to kind of give an idea out to the listeners, for example, what you first want to do is identify 5 things that you want to accomplish this quarter to make it very simple. Okay, for example, you want to start meditating. Okay, so I have this great book. It's called The 8-Minute Meditation, and it's so simple, right? And it really kind of walks you through the everyday meditating for 1 minute and then meditating for 2 minutes, and it has but it really kind of works. The goal is to work towards creating that habit. So you're going to create you want to create your 5 quarterly jumps, things that are going to excite you. And if you accomplish them, you're going to be very happy. And then you want to create something called action daily steps, or we utilize what we call an impact filter. And in those impact filters, it's basically the daily action steps. What are we going to do? So if one of your goals is to be meditating for 30 minutes a day by the end of this quarter, what would you do? Well, first step is maybe you pick up this book, 8-Minute Meditation, and or any other material on it, and you start creating that activity every single day and working towards that goal. And the same thing that you're going to do with health, for example. It might be hard to go to the gym, and then you start to fall into the gap. But what are some things that you can do? Maybe you want to lose 10 pounds by the end of the second quarter. What are going to be the action steps you're going to do? What are you going to do every single day? Maybe you're going to do maybe the first day you're going to do 10 thrusters, 10 push-ups, 10 mountain climbers, and you're going to go for a half a mile run, around your neighborhood. And maybe you're going to do this year, day 2. The goal is to really identify these and then have action steps on how you're going to do it. But what's most important about this is that every day you look back on what you've done. And every day you pat yourself on the back. Every day you have a win. And if every day you have a win, if you have these identified, these 5 big quarterly jumps, and you have action steps to build it up, and you're having wins every day, it's going to start to shift your mind out of the gap in where you are right now. And you're going to end up at the end of the quarter, and we're going to be past this COVID, and you're going to be excited about where you are, and you're going to be motivated to continue moving forward, utilizing this process.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't stress this enough. You're 100% correct, because we have a choice every day. We have a choice whether we feel defeated. You know what? I'm just tired. Todd, I'm tired. This is ridiculous. I'm still in my house. I'm just going to sit in my chair and turn on the TV and see what's on. That's a choice, right? Or like you said, I have a choice. I told you, I joked earlier that I'm 5 pounds into adding my COVID-19, but it's true. I'm up 5 pounds because I'm snacking too much. So I have a choice when I go to the store to buy some things, or actually to not buy some things that I've been buying, Doritos, and things like that I like to snack on. I have those choices. And then I have the choice to get up at a different time every morning, or set a specific time during my day, since I'm working from home, to take that half an hour walk, to take that half an hour jog or the run, or an hour dedicated to those things. But it's making that choice that seems to be some of the hardest, right? Especially when you're facing that gap. How did you get to the point where you're like, you know what? I know I need to make the choice. I just need to do it. Or do you have an accountability partner? I know you work with coaches, but do you involve anybody else in that circle that can help hold you accountable, or help you just, hey, how'd that go today?
I'd have to say my wife is one of my biggest advocates, and she's a huge accountability partner.
That's awesome.
And it's funny because when you were just telling the story about, the COVID-19 in regards to pounds, is, as I started to fall into my rut a couple of weeks ago, not being able to get out with my trainer, and every day basically complaining about it, saying, I've been, I'm so used to going every day with my trainer, and I haven't gone, and now if I keep this up, I'm going to be right back to where I was, and I'm not going to be, I'm going to lose all the gains, and I'll do it tomorrow, and I'll do it tomorrow, and I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And she was like, instead of saying you're going to do it tomorrow, why don't you do it right now?
Wives are funny like that,
and
right?
she's right. She's like, why don't you? But instead of getting into bed right now, why don't you drop down and do 200 push-ups, and do your mountain climbers and thrusters, and take a shower and come to bed, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, and it was when she said that, right? It really made me realize, is that I was really in a rut, and a lot of people are. So it's like but what's exciting about this little game plan that we utilize to keep us on track is that it's simplified, because there aren't 20 things, there's 5. And you could create these action steps, and you could have these daily wins, and you could keep track. And coming out of this in 30 days, you're going to have 2 different people. Right? In the next, I'd say 30 days, in the next 3 months, when we're really coming out of this COVID-19, you're going to have 2 different people. You're going to have the ones who took those daily actions and who took action, and the ones who talked about taking action and didn't.
Yeah.
And you're going to see a huge difference, right? You're going to see the ones who maybe gained the 19 pounds, and you're going to see the ones who are like, never missed a beat.
Yeah.
And the reason why is from this is not that they might have started to fall into a little bit of a rut, but they were extremely mindful about focusing on the daily actions and the daily wins, rather than letting themselves get caught up in what it is that they haven't accomplished yet. So I think it's powerful, and like I said, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've even found it right. And, so you talk to people, find an accountability partner, whether it's your spouse or a business coach or somebody, because it's sometimes it's hard to do by yourself. But when you have accountability partners in your life, they're going to be the ones to call you out and be like, okay, well, instead of talking about it, let's take action today. And this is how we're going to do it. And sure enough, we'll all come out of this much stronger and better and more positive going forward, and moving past this, COVID-19 pandemic.
Absolutely. And I want to say one last thing as far as those that are listening. If you do something on a normal basis that you find that you're not able to do now, and I'm going to use an example. My wife usually goes and helps people a lot. She's very active even after work. She's always doing something to help somebody else. We volunteer quite a bit, and that's kind of been put on hold because we can't go to the location. So she's going a little bit stir crazy. you can find things to replace that. So my wife has been making masks for people that don't have them. She's been doing that for a few weeks now. And she works on it hours per day because she fills that need and she feels fulfilled by doing that. So it may be something you've never done before, but it's definitely something that you need to find something to replace the thing that you lost so you don't have that piece missing from your daily activities. And Todd, I think that's great. Like you said, you're not able to see your personal trainer. That's something that you did, either on a weekly basis or all the time. And now that you can't, you have to replace that. And it sounds like your wife has now become your personal trainer. So I think that's great. Isn't it funny how our wives are so capable to do that?
Exactly. And also one other thing is just, where I think when you're looking to identify these 5 core areas, triggers are really important as well. For example, a trigger for me is, so we have a trip planned at the end of June, and hopefully it happens. It's a family trip, and that's a trigger for me, right? I want to feel good on the beach. I want to be able to be active with my kids, and so that's a trigger for me. So I'm like, okay, so I really want to. One of my top 5 goals for this quarter is really to dial in on my health. And these are the reasons why, and these are the action steps I'm going to take. So it was a trigger. So now I want to feel good on the beach. I want to be active. Built around these 5, you want to find triggers that are going to kind of bring you to a certain place, that are going to really entice you to take more action. Mm-hmm. Like I always say to my staff, you can't just write goals down. Or you have to have a reason why you want to accomplish that goal. Mm-hmm. And those are the triggers. So if somebody's just like, oh, I want to lose 20 pounds, why? Why do you want to lose 20 pounds? Or why do you want to, watch where you're eating? Is it to get your blood sugar down? What is it? So that's something also I wanted to add in there, is that as everybody is identifying what their 5 big jumps are going to be for this quarter, what are the triggers behind that, and what are the real reason why you want to do it? Because once you kind of attach that to a reason, then you're more likely to take those action steps.
Very, very true. I'm actually going to add a piece to that, because the triggers are one of the most important pieces. And once you've identified that trigger, what I would tell you is, as a coach, is I always had my clients find a reminder. And I would term it that way. You've got your trigger, now you need your reminder. And so I had a gentleman that his goal was a weight loss goal, and he wanted to lose 25 pounds, and he was going to do it in a year. And the whole point was that he was getting ready for a couple different events, and he really wanted to be healthy. He really wanted to be in shape. He really wanted to look better for himself and his wife, and actually soon to be wife. The wedding was one of the reasons. But he also he wanted to reward himself for doing that, which is a big component of any goal. What is the end reward? And that's a lot of times the trigger is the reward. Like you said, you want to feel good on the beach. But then he wanted to reward himself by buying a new suit, not just a regular suit. He wanted to go into a very specific shop that did tailor-made suits. Once he was able to get to the weight he liked, he was going to buy himself a new suit from that specific shop. So what we did is we talked about what could be his reminder of why he's getting up every morning and going to the gym, and why he's seeing his personal trainer. So we talked about it. I said, why don't you go to the shop, go window shopping basically, pick out the fabric that you want for the suit, ask them for a swatch, which they'll give you, and then go to the hardware store, ask them to put a grommet in it, which they did. And so he put a grommet in that little swatch of cloth, and then he made it a keychain. So now it's a keychain it was for his truck, which he drove on a daily basis. So every time he grabbed his keys, he had that little swatch of material to remind him, this is why I'm getting up early. This is why I'm going to the gym. This is why I'm contacting a personal trainer. This is why I'm putting in this hard work, because I'm going to get this suit. And so when you have something like that on your mind, make sure that you get a reminder that's not just going to be sitting on a coffee table someplace, that's going to be in your face on a daily basis to say, okay, I remember why I'm doing this. Todd, you brought up the example of the beach. You can just get a picture of the place that you're going to go, the resort you're going to go, or the beach you're going to go to, wherever that is. You have a picture of that, and you have that in a prominent area that you're going to see on a daily basis. So you know, okay, that's it. That's what I'm doing this for. It's a great reminder, and it really can help motivate you.
Absolutely. You need to reward yourself. We do that all the time. And so, what is going to be a reward when you make those 5 big jumps at the end of the quarter? What's the reward? Like you said, are you going to buy a suit? Maybe buy yourself a nice watch. Maybe take your family on a nice vacation. Maybe buy a car. I don't know. But when there's a reward there, and you have to reward yourself, you have to kind of turn back. Like I tell my team all the time, it's like at the end of every quarter, we celebrate the quarter.
That's right.
Even though we're the goals are much bigger, we celebrate the quarter. We go out, we talk, we enjoy, we say, wow, it was great that we did this and we did this. And then we reset for the next quarter. Yeah. But you have to celebrate the success. And if you don't celebrate this success, you're always going to be living in that, what have I not accomplished? And that's not a good place to be. You always have to keep out of the gap, and you have to celebrate your success.
Yep, absolutely. Todd, this was fantastic. I hope that this was very encouraging to every one of our listeners. Todd, you did a fantastic job of outlining kind of the strategies that you use. I appreciate you being very open and honest about how you were feeling and bringing that to the audience so that they can relate to you and say, hey, you know what? Todd's felt it. I've felt it. I can tell you from my standpoint, Eric's felt it. We all go through it. It's not that big of a deal to be able to say, this is what I'm doing. I need to make some changes. You brought great information today. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Eric.
You bet. And I want to thank you for listening to the Utilization of Money Podcast with Todd Levine. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Todd comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. This makes it much easier to share these podcasts with your friends and family. And again, this is a great one to share with your family because hopefully you've got a wife like Todd's that will help you be accountable to those goals. You guys can achieve more together because you're working on a goal together. That's always the best way. Again, thanks for listening today. For everyone at Levine Financial Group, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Utilization of Money podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available.
Todd Levine, registered representative and financial advisor of Park Avenue Securities, LLC. PAS security products and advisory services offered through PAS. Member FINRA SIPC. Financial representative of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, Guardian, New York, New York. PAS is a wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. Living Financial Group is not an affiliate or subsidiary of PAS or Guardian. Guardian and its subsidiaries and agents and employees do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. Consult your tax, legal, or accounting professional regarding your individual situation. Material discussed is meant for general informational purposes only and is not to be construed as tax, legal, or investment advice. Although the information has been gathered from sources believed to be reliable, please note individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon only when coordinated with individual professional advice. All investments contain risk and may lose value. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Life insurance dividends are not guaranteed. They are generally declared annually by the issuing company's board of directors. 2020-101424, expiration 5 of 22.